just a little background about me. I'm born in Canada. I've traveled now to over 80 countries, almost 85 countries, and I've spent my life trying to understand why people are angry, why they fight, why they're unhappy, why we're not successful. I'm born quite poor. I've been on my own since I'm 12 years old, taking care of myself. I've had days without food because I had no money, and I was able to be a millionaire by 25, and I retired when I was 28. And I thought, it's possible, anybody can do it. I never went to school, I have no formal education, just secondary. And I wanted to understand why people are suffering, why they are limited, and how did I achieve it without education or family or any background, so that I could find ways to teach people how they could have a better life. That's my main interest. Since I was a young child, I just wanted to see people happier, because I grew up with parents who were an arranged marriage that should have never been arranged. So when I spent my life doing this through studying different religions, different traditions, traveling the world, and I've been in over 30 different kinds of businesses. So as an entrepreneur, as a monk, and as basically a student of life, I've spent my life and I have found ways, and I've taught to thousands of people around the world, ways to change their life. And the primary goal is happiness. Happiness is what we all want. And that's success, right? Success is not a dollar figure. Success is being happy with your life, right? So that's basically what my work is about, all my courses and my articles and the things I do, now that I'm pretty much retired. So I do this to help people. It's not a business for me. I make my money in my investments, and I also teach about stock market trading. That's another course. But this work is really done just to help people, okay? Tonight is a little introduction, and we have a one-day course on the 14th of September if anyone wants to sign up for that. We'll talk about that afterwards in the Q&A. Okay, so basically on to the work. Now, there's 3 parts to every human being's life. Money, we need money. There's no way to get around that. Relationship, love, family, someone to share your life with, and all of it is based on the foundation of your self-esteem, right? The way you feel about yourself, your self-confidence, your self-esteem is the foundation that supports and will determine the level of success financially in business or your job and in your relationship. That's not just your marriage, but with your parents, with your children, with your friends, with your co-workers, clients. Relationship is for everybody, okay? So to have a successful life and a successful relationship, we need to have a strong self-esteem. And everything comes from the center point of our mind, our personality. And so that's the core of all my work, in the relationship work, in the self-esteem, in the personal development, in the business. Everything is centered around your mind, because that's where everything in life interacts with you, right? So that's the sort of things we talk about. Now, ever heard this definition? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Now, for most people, aside from maybe little kids or young teenagers, life is just going in circles, right? You get the same things happening. So, you keep having the same problems with the relationship, the same trouble with people, the same fights with your family. Everything seems to be always repeating. Our life events are not greatly varied, but they always seem to go in a circle, all right? Now, if you think you're fine and this isn't how your life is going, just start to observe how the events in your life are from week to week or month to month. Do you tend to have the same arguments, hit the same roadblocks, right? So you have to examine yourself using your own mind, all right? Now, generally, life doesn't change. People do not change. Things do not change. Older people will look back and say, yeah, my life, well, it had some changes. There were some good and some bad, but relatively within a sort of parallel lines. And it was just like this instead of like this. It wasn't great adventures. It was just pretty much life went through a similar thing. Now, why things do not change for a person, why our personality doesn't change, right? And if you're a young couple and you get to know your husband and then you get to know his parents, and eventually you're going to say, you're just like your father or you're just like your mother, right? We carry on traditions in a way. Personality carries on. Now this I've been saying my whole life, but Mark Twain said it. You might respect him more than me. It's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble, but it's what you know for certain that is just not true. That's wrong. I don't know about Malaysia, but in Canada, in US, and Western countries, there's a sort of a joke, which is kind of true actually, that when a man is driving a car and he gets lost, he will not ask for directions. He will just not ask for directions, right? So he's so sure he's going in the right direction, but it's wrong. How long does it take before you're really in trouble? I fly an airplane, single engine, small airplanes, but when you're heading from point A to point B with an airplane, if you fly by a compass heading, if you're off by just 1 or 2 degrees, and it's maybe 500 or 1,000 kilometers away, just that 1 degree off will end up way off your target. You will not get close to your destination. So when we're so sure we know something and we continue on that path, that's where trouble happens. So we need to first realize that every human being does this. We are so certain we're right. We don't like to admit we're wrong. We want to defend our opinions. And I know, I'm not stupid. I know what I'm doing, I'm not stupid. It's usually when you see somebody being real stupid, huh? Now, I'll tell you a story, and you probably know this when you're reading or writing an email or conversing with someone by email or text. You send them a couple of lines and they give you an answer that's totally unrelated. And you say, well, what's wrong with this person? Can't they read a simple few lines? And everybody does this. We don't pay attention to details. I had 2 of my students. One of them, he bought a house, he owned the house, and there was one of the other students, she rented a room from him. So she was flatting in the house. And one day the boy did something nice for this girl, and while he was out one day, she wanted to say thank you, so she bought him a chocolate bar and a Coca-Cola. She put the Coca-Cola in the fridge, and then she put the chocolate bar on his desk with a note and saying, thank you for the sweet thing you did, here's something sweet for you, and I put a Coca-Cola in the fridge for you. Okay, that's not a big letter. It's not a novel. So he comes home later, she had gone out, and he texts her, he says, thanks for the chocolate, and by the way, I see there's a Coke in the fridge. Would you mind if I had it? I told you on the note, it's yours. Oh no, I didn't read the note. So I asked him, what's wrong with you? Can't read 2 lines? He said, well, I saw the chocolate. I saw thank you. So I figured I knew what the note said. He was so sure he was right. And then just looks like a fool, right? So we're all doing this when we think we know what someone said, what's written in the email, any instructions, any conversation. When we're so sure we know, that's when we get into trouble. So this is the first and most important lesson that you can take away tonight, is to realize that when you think you know, you may not know. And you'd better double check and pay more attention going forward to everything you're reading or hearing and seeing if you think you know, but you got it wrong. So I'm going to give you a little visual to help you understand that this is an IQ test. Okay, the IQ test is, what is this? Well, it's pretty easy, right? It's a piece of green plastic. Any idiot would know that. It's a piece of green plastic, right? Except you're wrong. It's actually 2 pieces of plastic, yellow and blue. Right? That's what life is about. Life is about things that, pieces that are put together that give you an impression. And when you think you understand, that's when you make mistakes, right? And so this is something you could keep in your mind, that even the simplest things I might be misinterpreting. Now, all of this is going to make sense as we continue through the talk, all right? So that's very important. My grandfather, he's from India actually, and he always said to me, believe nothing that you hear and only half of what you see. So you're always questioning, always realizing you may not have it right. So you look deeper for things. Now, your life is a gray area, you know, it's not so sure what's what. And that's because human beings from anywhere in the world, remember I've been to over 80 countries studying people, and not just 1 week or 3-day vacations. I spend months and months in every country I go to. I live like a local to really get to know the culture, the people, and so on. Human beings have an infinite capacity for self-deception. And this is common to all human beings. It's human nature. In our work, we call that self-lying. It's a self-lie. Now, if I told you breast milk is bad for the baby, not just that formula is better, but breast milk is actually bad, could you believe such a thing? Yeah, well, my mother did, and everyone in her generation did, because the companies that invented formula wanted to make more money, so they tell the doctors to tell the mothers that breast milk is bad for the baby. Give them formula, so they make business. And they believed it. Why would she believe such a stupid, obviously ridiculous thing? Because I said, you know, what are we here, 10,000 years on breast milk? We got this far. How could it be bad all of a sudden? She said, well, I don't know. The doctors said so. The doctors know best. So human beings have an infinite capacity for self-deception, especially when it comes from an authority figure. So we have to be very careful not to believe anything we hear or see just because it comes from a doctor, a PhD, a professor, the government, and sorry, but even our parents. Because our parents can only work with information they received, which was also misinformation, right? So when someone tells you something, they could be totally sincere, and you'll believe them because you can see they are so sincere. But reality is they're lying because they're repeating a lie. So we have to always remember that when we're listening and when we're speaking. Are we actually certain that what we're saying is the truth? And I can teach you now a very simple way to always be right. I'm always right. I'm never wrong. Maybe sometimes. But it's very easy. Unless you're 1,000% certain that what you're going to say is actually accurately, perfectly, precise, correct, don't say a thing. And then by virtue of never saying anything wrong, you're always right. Right? And then you get my reputation. And I've been in the nuclear industry in the US, so I've had the top scientists in the world working with me. I'm a businessman, not as a scientist, but they were the scientists. My reputation is I'm the most reliable man they've ever met. Or I'm consistent. Because I don't say something unless I'm absolutely certain it's true. So I don't talk that much sometimes. But that's very, very important in building up your reputation. Now, your reputation means how do people see you, which is your self-esteem. If people think you're a fool and they can't trust you, your self-esteem goes down. And if your self-esteem is very weak, then you won't be so sure of yourself in business and you won't be so confident in your relationship. That's why self-esteem is the foundation of the other two parts of our life. So we have to be very careful in how we conduct ourselves so we have a strong self-esteem and a great reputation. All right? So there's a lot of interesting things in life. This is not my old girlfriend, but I had a girlfriend who looked a lot like that when I was younger. And one day, she started to get these terrible headaches. And this was going on for about a month. Every afternoon, about 2, 3, 4 o'clock, she starts to get this severe, severe headache. She can't take the pain. She has to go home, take a nap. And she's getting worried. So she goes to the doctor. Doctor can't figure it out. They do brain scan, cancer doctors, neurologists, brain specialists, MRIs, and this, they're testing. Nobody can find out what's wrong with her head, why she's getting these headaches. And then one day she just decided, I'm going to stay home and sleep all weekend. So she didn't put her hair in her new hairstyle, which she had started to do about a month ago. And it turned out that the headaches were because she, instead of her long flowing hair, decided to tie her hair in a tight bun. I don't know what that would feel like, but in a tight bun. And that was pulling on her scalp so much that by mid-afternoon there was no more blood flow and she'd get a headache. It was incredible. All the great doctors, all the tests, of course they couldn't find anything. There was nothing wrong with her. They were looking inside the brain instead of at the hairstyle. So the point of this little story is that in everything in the world, everything in your life, whatever it is, there's a cause. And there's a cause for that, and a cause for that, and a cause for that. If we look for the cause of every situation, which means, is my business doing well or not so well? Is my relationship going well or not so well? Am I still single and I'm getting older and I can't find somebody? Do I have multiple marriages and multiple relationships that keep going wrong? Instead of looking at it being the other person or the situation or the government or whatever, are you looking at where the real cause may be? Okay? So these are all principles I'm giving you, and in the course, in the one-day workshop, I teach you how to really get into depth to apply all of this. But even still, I'm hoping that tonight is enough for you to really get something valuable. All right? So we always have to look for the cause of things. So why things in your life do not change, and you're young, but you've got a long life ahead of you, and you don't want to look back when you're 60 and say, you know what? It was never really that different. Because you're living in self-deception. Everything is a self-lie. You're believing things that are not true, and convincing yourself of that. And the solution is always look for the cause of every problem. Okay? All right, now I'll give you another principle. We're moving on to a different principle. Sort of different. A human being is typically a mountain. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an engineer, whatever it is. I'm successful, I'm this culture, I am this religion, I am me, I am important, I know things, right? I am big, strong mountain, respect me. That's a typical human being. But in my work, we want to become a cloud, not a mountain. Now a cloud is far more powerful because a cloud is versatile. It moves, it changes shape, it goes anywhere, it creates itself, it disappears. It can go in any place. You cannot create it, you cannot destroy it, you cannot contain it. It's totally free. Now, that's in itself, but the most important difference between a cloud and a mountain is that when an airplane flies into a mountain, everybody dies, and the mountain gets chipped away. But when an airplane flies through a cloud, it's so pretty. It's lovely, isn't it? I love that when the plane is just getting over the tops of the clouds and you see all the little puffy things and you just want to go out and play and bounce around on that. So, clouds are they bring joy, they bring happiness. They don't destroy. Mountains, opinions, I am me, destroys. It's impossible. Have you ever seen two mountains try to get together? Imagine if they could, bang, bang, bang. I'm sure you can just take the analogy of two people fighting. That's a lot like two mountains colliding. But watch clouds, how they can merge together. and two clouds become one. You can't tell the difference anymore, right? So our work is to bring you to be more like a cloud. Now, aside from all of this, a cloud is so powerful, it can become black. A storm cloud. It can blot out the sun. It can turn day to night. Thunder, lightning, rain, floods. Clouds can be anything. And they can be a mixture of both. Beautiful decoration. And change the day. So the concept of being like a cloud is so that we remove our fixed opinions and we become very versatile. We become untouchable. Now, to me, untouchable is in the sense of you cannot insult me. I can't get insulted. You can say anything. It doesn't bother me. You can't manipulate me. You can't outsell me. Like if a great salesman is trying to convince you to buy something, it doesn't work on me. So that's what we want. We want to become a cloud, which doesn't mean I don't care about anyone. It gives great care because it brings shade, it decorates the sky, it gives rain, but no one can control it. So it means you will never get insulted, you will never get upset, you will never be intimidated, you will never be controlled or manipulated, right? So those are the benefits of becoming more of a cloud rather than a mountain, all right? And the best part is you never get other people pissed off and making trouble in your life. Right. Now, another little principle is the very most important thing for every single human being is companionship. From birth to death, everywhere in the world, any religion, any culture, any country, companionship is what drives the human being. When a baby is born, if you leave it alone, it's crying. I love watching little kids, right? Little kids, 2, 3, 4 years old. Do you watch them, how they like to just touch you? They're just touching all over, right? Whoever the adult is near them. They like to be close and cuddling. From birth, we want touch. And as we get older, we want touch more. We need affection. And when we're older, we're scared of dying alone. When people are getting to 40, 50, 60 years old, and if they're single, ask them, what's your biggest fear? My biggest fear is growing old alone. The Russians, many, many years ago, did a test. They took 100 babies in here and 100 babies there. These 100, they touched and loved and cuddled and everything was great. These 100, they had no affection. They fed them, took care of their body and so on, so they didn't die of exposure or starvation, but no affection whatsoever. These group, most of them died. The Russians didn't really care about life back then. They died. Now, companionship is what drives us to anything. You take good kids. I don't know if you have gangs and things here, but you know how the hoodlums and the gangs in America and so on. You take really good kids from really good families and they join these gangs and they commit crimes and they do drugs and they're gambling and all kinds of bad stuff. Why? Because they didn't get any feeling of love and companionship at home. But the gang is another form of religion. It's a brotherhood, sisterhood. You've got a family, you belong. So, I don't have a dating app to help single people, but we have to begin with knowing that the one most important thing that drives you is not having more money, is not having more properties, it is companionship. You have to accept this as the core driving force for everything you do. Why do you want to be rich? People will admire me. Why do I want to be famous? I'll have lots of fans. Why do I want to look beautiful? I'll attract more people. Why do I want to be successful? More people will like me. Everything you do, and that's one exercise you can take away with you, is think of every desire you have and see if you cannot relate that to a desire of companionship. Remember the cause of the cause of the cause of the cause. If you look at the cause of everything you want, you will find that eventually it comes to people will like me. I won't be alone. Right? So that is a principle that you spend your whole life in self-deception trying to avoid because you can buy things. When I was in Singapore for a few months, I was dating girls there because I'm single now. My wife passed away a few years ago. And so many girls say, you know, men, unreliable. Career, that's reliable. And I wanted to say, no, actually it's not. I'm a businessman and I invest in the stock market. I see companies go bankrupt all the time, you know? So it's not. But they feel money is, right? So you deceive yourself because you know you can't guarantee going to a shop and buying companionship. You can rent it for a while, but you can't buy it for life. You can't buy love. So people divert themselves, humans divert from the core need and have a self-lie that money is good enough, career is good enough, that's better, all right? But that's why you're like the train going in circles. Your life will go in circles because you're living in self-deception of what really matters. So that's one principle of getting off of that circle life, is acknowledging what really matters most and focusing your life to make everything you're doing based on realizing it's all about companionship and working on yourself to make yourself worthy of that. All right, so now I'm going quickly because we only have 1 hour. What destroys relationships? What is our biggest frustration in life? Arguments, conflicts, right? Now, I'm sure you've all had arguments with a boyfriend, girlfriend, somebody. And when you're having that argument, don't you get to the point where, you're saying, you're arguing, and the other one says, yeah, I know what you mean. And you say, no, you don't understand. Yes, I do understand. No, you don't understand. Yes, I do understand. And you get so frustrated because you know they don't understand what you're talking about, even though they insist that they do, right? So, do you know the difference between a monologue and a dialogue? A monologue is basically one person talking to themselves, what I'm doing now. A dialogue is two people talking to themselves. Think about any argument you've had or listen to people arguing and see if you can catch that, what this one is saying is not what the other one is talking about. They're talking about two totally different things. So these are the things that in my work, in my workshops and courses, we correct that flaw. So your self-lie is that you do understand. And the truth is, the cause of the argument is you don't understand. So think about this. If you truly understand another person, can you argue? You can't argue. You may not agree, but you can't argue if you really understand them. If you know, I know what you mean. I know what matters to you. I know the point you're trying to make. I really understand you. You can't argue with that. So there is the cause of our arguments, is you just don't understand. And that's because you're a mountain of opinions instead of a cloud adapting. Okay? Every argument we have, from when we're kids to adults, is putting pinholes in a balloon. And every fight erodes your self-esteem, because when you argue, you will know that there were things you said or did which were just not right, but you defended yourself and you justified it. And those put little pinholes in the self-esteem, or the balloon of self-esteem. And so you can try forever and ever and argue all the time, and the balloon's never going to blow up, never fill up. So your life, your relationship, love, emotion, which is really the only thing that matters in life, is to have that profound, deep emotion of love for somebody, because that's all you can really carry through your whole life. If you want that balloon to fill up, we've got to stop putting pinholes in it so that it can heal and inflate, okay? So it just reminds me of one story. This rich man spent his whole life building a fortune, but he's old, he's in the hospital, he's dying, and his wife is there. And he says, please make me a promise. She said, what? Anything. He said, bury me with my money. Come on, he said, please, my dying. Oh, okay. She said, fine, I will bury you with your money. Ah, thank you. So eventually he dies. They're at the funeral, and they put the coffin in the ground, and they're about to cover it with the earth, and the wife yells, wait, widow, I should say, wait, I made my husband a promise, and she wrote a check. What matters most is not the money. So we've got to get to that truth. You know, when somebody, there's this thing of, I have your truth, you have your truth, I have my truth. I don't know if you say that here, but in America, right, you have your truth, I have my truth in this. Why do you say that? You have your lie, I have my lie. You have your illusion, I have my illusion. When we get the truth that everything is a matter of my personal distorted opinion of what things are or what I think you said, then our mind can open. And that's when the mountain starts turning into a cloud. Okay? So you can spend your whole life building, right? It takes a long time to build, but it's really quick to destroy. Got to realize this as you go forward in your relationships and in your business. You know, you can spend years and years and years building up your fortune, and one mistake, you lose it all. And it doesn't matter if it's from your point of view, from her point of view, from the kid's point of view. Everything gets destroyed in a minute, and you don't rebuild that easily. So we have to be careful to treasure what we're building and change the way our mind is working, so we go from mountains to clouds and no longer put pinholes in the balloon or destroy what we've spent our life building, be that business, finances, or our relationship in our family. All right, so how do we interact? We've gone past the Stone Age where we have lions and tigers and things trying to chase us, kill us, and eat us. All we have now is communication. Words. There's, again, a lot of talk that words are powerful, words have meaning, words are really strong. I say words have no value whatsoever. None at all. Words have no innate value. Things that you find offensive, insulting, rude, arrogant, that make you feel like you're being put down, the words themselves have no value, and it is only how you interpret them that gives them a value. Si je parle français, tu comprends pas de français, je peux le dire n'importe quoi. Tu es toutes des grands vaches, sont tout fous, il n'y a pas de chance en vie que tu vas être un succès. Et c'est bon, avec un sourire, c'est bon, oui? You see? Isn't that lovely? Nobody got upset, but I just called you a bunch of big fat cows. You're all totally stupid, and there's not a chance in life that you'll be any form of success. But if I said it in English, you go, that's not very nice. See, words have no meaning. It's about how you interpret them. So every time you get angry, upset, pissed off, intimidated, hurt, insulted, so on, you've got to remember that what's happening is somebody is talking, communicating with you, and those words are here, and you took them. You interpreted them. You gave them meaning, but you did that. Now, I could yell at you and insult you all I want, and unless I ate a lot of raw garlic and raw onions and I'm right in your face, my breath could kill you, but otherwise, I haven't done a thing. So whenever you're upset by what someone said, you've got to remember that it is not they who upset you, but you who chose to interpret those words in a way that you got upset. So words are simply a knife they put on the table. Nobody can hurt you with the words alone. It's a knife on the table. Now, before we go into that a little further, let me ask you, are you in any form of pain or suffering at all? Is anybody here without any problems in their life? Any totally pain-free? No suffering, no troubles? Right? Everyone's got some problems. When someone is angry at you, or you are angry at someone, are you really yelling at the situation? Or are you venting your pain from something else that's bothering you? How many fights do couples have which have nothing to do with each other, but because there's a money problem, a business problem, a health problem, a fear? When somebody is angry at you, if it's your boss, for example, you work in a big corporation, your boss is giving you shit, think, did he just find out he's going to lose his job? Did his boss say, if you don't meet your target, you don't get your bonus, then he doesn't have money to put his kids through college? Did maybe he or she find out they have cancer? Did she find out her husband's cheating? Or did her husband find out his wife is cheating? You don't know what happened to that person today, or yesterday, or the day before, or the day before. The cause of the cause of the cause of them getting angry. So don't you get angry at people needlessly because something else is bothering you? So whenever someone is attacking you, being rude, being insulting, being nasty, whatever it may be, your first reaction, and this comes through practice, eventually it happens automatically the more you do it, is to remind yourself that I don't know what suffering this person is going through, but I do know that when I'm in pain, I give shit to people. So maybe there's something really bothering this person. And instead of responding with anger or a negative emotion, say, you know what? Today I'm going to be Buddha. Come, yell at me more. Give me more. I'll take it. It's okay. Let it out. You'll feel better. You see, this is how we develop compassion. By observing ourselves getting angry at people, seeing the cause of the cause. Why did I yell like that? It's not about the event. It's not because the coffee wasn't good. It's because I'm worried about making enough money to pay for the coffee. And the more I see myself and understand how my mind functions, and that maybe I'm angry at everyone because I'm single and I can't get a date, and I'm worried I'm getting older and I'll die alone. Maybe all these things, you see? So the more I observe my own feelings and what drives me, the more I'll understand other people. And then you can receive all attacks with compassion. All right? And then you can leave the knife on the table and respond with compassion. But humans are not like that. Humans are drama queens. We love drama. So you can do what usually people do, which is pick up the knife and stick it in your own heart. And then say, my boss said this, you said that, you did that, blah, 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 blaming everybody else. And digging it in, feeling the pain, and blaming it on someone else. But you picked it up and stuck it in your own heart by the way you interpreted the words. Okay? So, it is your choice. You can leave the knife on the table, or you can do the typical human thing. Right? So now I'll just tell you a funny story. This is a true story. In India, when I was traveling in India many, couple of decades ago at this point, I was in a small town and I wanted to buy a train ticket for the next day. So I go to the train station, this fellow is there, small town. I say, I want to reserve a ticket for tomorrow to go to Mumbai. He says, no need to reserve ticket, sir. You come tomorrow, many train, many seat. Tomorrow you come, you get ticket. I said, no, I want to reserve a ticket just so I know I've got it. No need, sir. You no need to reserve ticket. You come tomorrow, you get ticket tomorrow. No problem. Many train, many seat, no problem. And I'm saying, but please, I want to reserve. And he said, no. It goes back and forth, refuses. Okay, what can I do? So I go back, and the next day I've got my hotel booked in the next town, packed my bag, checked out of this place. I get there to the train station. Same guy is there. I said, hi, I wanted to get to Mumbai. He said, no train, sir. What? I need to go. Yesterday you said there'd be a train today. He said, yes, sir, I told you there would be train, but today there is no train. On this day of week, never train go to Mumbai. You come tomorrow. Tomorrow there is train. So, but yesterday you said there'd be a train. I packed my bag. I checked out of the hotel. I booked the next hotel. I gotta go. Give me a ticket. I have to go. He says, no, sir, no train today, sir. Cannot go today, sir. You come tomorrow. Tomorrow you go. No problem. I'm going crazy. I'm getting so angry. Why? If you knew there would not be a train, why did you tell me there would be? I did not want to get you upset. He didn't want to disappoint me. You see? Sometimes good intentions go bad. It happens. So we have to remember that. I had one student, he was a photographer. And one day his 6-year-old took his cameras and put them in a bucket of water. And he said, "Why'd you do that?" "I want to help Daddy. I wash the cameras." You see? What can you do? So that's something else to remember in all this. You can leave the knife on the table and stop and think and consider the cause of the cause of the cause. Maybe they didn't mean to hurt you. Maybe they were just trying to help, right? If I go to Starbucks and I order a coffee and I get it and it's sweet, put a lot of sugar in. I could go and I could yell at the person who made it, but they were actually trying to do me a favor because they think everyone likes sugar in their coffee, so they put sugar for me. See, so it's good intentions. You can't get angry at that. So these are the principles. If you can get your mind to function this way, you'll find that you have far less anger, conflicts, and problems. And again, that's relationships or business and work. Part of the course is also is about being a parent. Now, being a better parent. Parenting is a review of your childhood. So if you have kids or you don't have kids, it doesn't matter so much. You're still going to learn a lot about how you are and how to be a better parent, all right? The main principle is things have changed. You guys might notice that. The phone that a 6-year-old has today and the phone that you might have had when you were 6 years old, right? The world has changed, technology has changed, everything is totally different. So the way we've got to raise children has to change as well. So the way you were raised by your parents who raised you the way they were raised didn't apply to you. And if you raise your kids the way you were raised, wouldn't apply to them. So we need to adapt and we need to realize that the mind has to be raised, trained in a different way. Now, the learning, and I know Asian culture, my mother, as I said, from India, so I'm part Asian in a way. You stress education, more tuition. So kids are, go to extra tuition after school, extra classes, always study. But the learning apparatus matters more than the material we learn, okay? Your brain, the way your brain develops is more important than stuffing it with more information. So if you play with Lego, or a kid plays with Lego, that's as good as doing extra math tuition because it's developing the brain in a certain way. So the mind has to be very flexible. So we have to teach things to kids so they get a variety of skills. Now, children do not learn through words. Ever talk to a 4-year-old and say, "Can't you understand what I'm saying?" And no, he can't. He's 4 years old. So we have to understand that we learn, not just your kids, but you as a kid, learned from experiences, from observation, not through intellectual information because you couldn't process it. So there's a lot of things that you have opinions of, views of, or ways you want to raise your children because when you saw things, that didn't match with what you were told. And that meant your brain never learns to develop properly. Okay? So, just one thing to remember, when you have kids and they do not listen to you, they're not obedient, that on the night that you got pregnant, it was not an angel who appeared to say, "Excuse me, would you please make love because I want to be born?" That didn't happen. That was the light of your phone. All right? You chose to have a child. And when you choose to have a child, you're not breeding servants. You are bringing a human being into this world, and it is your duty to raise that human being in a way that they will have a happy, balanced life with good experiences, rather than inhibitions or limitations. All right? So just remember that as a parent, and we go into this in the workshop, I'm going through quickly because we're out of time, that as a parent, this is a huge responsibility. You are making a choice to bring a human being into this world, and you are now the servant. But I know Asian culture, as I said, my mother's from India, you will do whatever we say because you're my son. I said, hey, I didn't ask to be born. If you asked me before, okay, and I said, please, I want to be born, you're doing me a favor. Okay, I owe you. But we have to remember as parents, the parent owes the child. And so something I find personally, I know it's the culture, but the attitude that parents have that the children should sacrifice their life to be the servant to the parent is not right. That's not a forward movement of evolution. It is the parent who must sacrifice their life forever to make sure their child grows up into something better than them and expands their life and experiences so they can do things better for the world. And that way humanity evolves. So it is something that I have found, as I said, dating here, Penang, Singapore, because I live here in Penang now. Been here 6 years. And so it's an attitude that is not really progressive. So we're adults. Maybe you're not going to change the way you are. But if you're having kids, you have to think about how you're raising the children. And always remember that that child did not appear a little angel saying, I want to be born, and raise your child to have an independent life, right? And so you've got to change the way you are as a parent now, as an individual, so that you can raise your child in a way that they develop as an individual, right? So that they can develop their own natural talents. And I'll just end with one story about one of my clients. I own several businesses, as I said, and I had a few photography labs, professional labs. And one client, he was an older man, he was a photographer. When he was younger, he became a lawyer. And he became a lawyer because his father was a lawyer. His grandfather was a lawyer. So of course, he had to follow the family tradition and he became a lawyer. And when he graduated, within a year of practice, he became so ill, he was hospitalized, and the doctor said, you need 6 months to a year, no work, just to recover. Otherwise, you're certainly going to die. So in that time off, he took up his hobby of photography, and he became very healthy. And he realized he hates law. It made him sick, but he loves photography. So his parents, grandparents, might love him very much, but they didn't think about him. So as a parent, you need to find the talents of your child. I had a Chinese friend, Taiwanese, and the son was never doing really well in school, so she sent him to extra math tuition, extra language tuition, extra tuitions. He was never doing very well. She thought he's got mental retardation, something wrong. He's retarded a little bit, brain damage, whatever. And so I talked to him. I said, well, what would you like to do? He said, I like to draw. So I said, get him into an extra drawing class instead of more math. And he was, when the mother said, okay, and she told him, I'll put you in art, you had to see how happy he was. And you know the funny thing? He started to do, he did the art, and he started to do better in all the other tuitions. All his other classes started to improve because he could now also do what was his natural talent. Okay? So you need to think about your children and you need to think about yourself. Are you following your natural talent? Or are you putting yourself in a box, a cultural box?